Have you ever walked onto a car lot feeling financially confident, only to leave 3 hours later wondering if you just signed your life away for the next 7 years? You're not alone. You know, right now, the average American is paying over $700 a month for their car payment. And that's before we even talk about insurance, gas, and the soul-crushing realization that their shiny new ride lost 20% of its value the moment they drove it off the lot. My name is Nick, and I help people understand money and make smarter financial decisions. If you're tired of being car poor and want to know exactly how much vehicle you can actually afford based on your salary, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. If this information saves you from financial disaster, here's something that'll shock you. Most people think they can afford way more car than they actually can. The average monthly payment has climbed to $742 for new cars and $525 for used cars. But here's the kicker. Just because a bank will approve you for that payment doesn't mean you should take it. Banks aren't your financial advisors. They're in the business of making money off your monthly payments for as long as possible. The truth is, car salespeople and lenders have mastered the art of making unaffordable cars seem affordable. They'll stretch your loan to 6, 7, even 8 years just to get that monthly payment to a number that doesn't make you run screaming from the dealership. But what they won't tell you is that you'll still be making payments when your car needs major repairs, and you'll be underwater on the loan for years. Today, we're going to break down exactly how much car you can afford at 4 different salary levels: $50,000, $75,000, $100,000, and $150,000 per year. We'll use proven rules that actually work, not the fantasy math that car dealers to separate you from your money. By the end of this breakdown, you'll know the exact dollar amount you should spend on a vehicle. And more importantly, you'll understand why going beyond that amount is financial suicide. Before we dive into specific salary breakdowns, you need to understand the rules that separate smart car buyers from people who end up financially trapped. The most popular guideline is called the 24-10 rule. This means you should put down at least 20% finance for no more than 4 years and keep your total transportation costs under 10% of your monthly income. But here's where it gets interesting. Some financial experts think that rule is too generous and they prefer the 238 rule, which maintains the 20% down payment but shortens the loan to 3 years and caps your payment at 8% of gross income. The logic is simple. If you can't pay off a depreciating asset in 3 years, you're buying too much car. Now let's talk about something car dealers you'll ignore: total cost of ownership. Your monthly payment is just the beginning. You've also got insurance, which can range from $100 to $300 per month, depending on your age, location, and driving record. Then there's gas, maintenance, repairs, and registration fees. Oh, and let's not forget the biggest hidden cost of all: depreciation. Here's a fun fact that'll make you question every car commercial you've ever seen. New cars lose an average of 12% of their value in the first year alone. That means if you buy a $30,000 car today, it'll be worth roughly $23,000 12 months from now. Congratulations, you just paid $7,000 to drive a car for a year. That's on top of your monthly payments, insurance, and everything else. Most cars lose about 60% of their value in the first 5 years. So that $30,000 car will be worth around $12,000 when you finally pay it off. This is why buying new cars is often considered one of the worst financial decisions you can make, especially if you're not wealthy. Let's start with someone earning $50,000 per year. After taxes, you're probably taking home around $3,400 monthly. Using the 10% rule, your total transportation budget should be no more than $340 per month. Using the more conservative 8% rule, you're looking at $272 monthly. But remember, that's your total transportation budget, not just your car payment. If you're spending $150 monthly on insurance and gas, you've got less than $200 left for an actual car payment under the 10% rule. Under the 8% rule, you'd have about $120 for a payment. Let's be realistic about what this means. With a $150 monthly payment, 20% down, and a 5% interest rate over 4 years, you're looking at a car that costs around $8,000. If you follow the more conservative 3-year rule, you're shopping in the $6,000 range. I know what you're thinking. $6 to $8,000 doesn't buy much car these days. You're absolutely right. But here's the brutal truth. If you're earning $50,000 per year, you can't afford a nice car. You can afford reliable transportation. There's a massive difference between the two. And understanding that difference will determine whether you build wealth or stay broke forever. The good news is that reliable transportation exists in that price range. If you know what to look for, a well-maintained Honda Civic or Toyota Corolla with higher mileage will serve you faithfully for years while you focus on increasing your income and building wealth. Now let's look at someone earning $75,000 annually. Your monthly take-home is probably around $5,100. Using the 10% rule, you can spend $510 monthly on transportation. The 8% rule gives you $48. After accounting for insurance and gas, you're looking at roughly $350 for a car payment under the 10% rule, or about $250 under the 8% rule with a $350 payment, 20% down, and reasonable financing terms. You're shopping for cars in the $15,000 to $16,000 range. The more conservative approach puts you around $11,000 to $12,000. At this salary level, you have more options, but you're still not shopping for luxury vehicles. You might find a certified pre-owned compact car or a slightly older mid-size sedan. The key is resisting the temptation to stretch your budget just because you qualify for a larger loan. Here's where many people making $75,000 make their first major mistake. They see that they can get approved for a $500 or $600 monthly payment and think that means they can afford it. Just because a bank will lend you money doesn't mean borrowing it is smart. Banks make money when you're in debt to them. They're not concerned about your financial well-being. Moving up to $100,000 per year, your monthly take-home is approximately $6,800. The 10% rule allows for $680 in monthly transportation costs. The 8% rule caps you at $540. After insurance and gas, you're looking at roughly $500 for a car payment under the 10% rule, or about $400 with the conservative approach. This opens up significantly more options. With a $500 payment and proper down payment, you're shopping in the $22,000 to $25,000 range. At this income level, you can afford a reliable late-model used car or possibly a basic new economy car. But here's the trap that catches many six-figure earners. They start thinking they've made it financially and deserve a luxury vehicle. Suddenly they're looking at BMW payments instead of Honda payments, and their financial future takes a dramatic turn for the worse. The person earning $100,000 who drives a paid-off $15,000 car and invests the difference will be infinitely wealthier than the person driving a $60,000 luxury car with a $700 monthly payment. Wealth isn't about looking rich. It's about being rich. Finally, let's examine someone earning $150,000 annually. After taxes, your realistic monthly take-home is likely around $9,100, depending on your state. The 10% rule allows for $910 in total monthly transportation costs. The 8% rule caps you at roughly $730. After setting aside about $200 for insurance and gas, you're looking at around $700 for a car payment. Under the 10% rule, or about $530 with the conservative approach. This puts you in the $30,000 to $35,000 range for vehicle purchases. I know that sounds low for a high earner, but remember, just because you earn six figures doesn't mean you should volunteer to pay six figures in interest. At this salary level, you can afford a nice car without destroying your financial future. You might choose a well-equipped mid-size sedan, a compact luxury vehicle, or even a basic pickup truck if that suits your needs. But even at this income level, stretching beyond these guidelines can derail your wealth-building goals. The biggest mistake high earners make is lifestyle inflation. They assume that earning more money means they should spend more money on everything, including cars. But the wealthy understand that the goal isn't to spend your money. The goal is to keep your money and make it work for you. Here's the reality that nobody wants to admit. The person driving the beat-up Toyota Camry with 200,000 miles might actually be wealthier than the person cruising in the brand-new Mercedes. Why? Because they understand something that most people never figure out. Cars are wealth destroyers, not wealth builders. Let me paint you a picture of what happens to most people's finances when they ignore these guidelines. Meet Sarah, who earns $75,000 per year. She walks into a dealership and falls in love with a $35,000 SUV. The salesman runs the numbers and tells her she qualifies for a $650 monthly payment over 7 years. Sarah thinks this sounds reasonable because she can technically afford it. But here's what Sarah didn't calculate. Her total monthly transportation costs are now over $900 when you include insurance, gas, and maintenance. That's nearly 18% of her gross income, almost double what financial experts recommend. Sarah is now car poor, which means she looks successful on the outside while struggling financially on the inside. Fast forward 3 years, Sarah's SUV is worth about $22,000, but she still owes $28,000 on the loan. She's trapped in what's called an underwater loan, owing more than the car is worth. If she needs to sell it due to job loss or financial emergency, she'd have to come up with $6,000 just to get out of the loan. Meanwhile, her coworker Mike, who also earned $75,000, bought a certified pre-owned Honda Accord for $15,000. He put $3,000 down and financed $12,000 over 3 years. Even with current used car interest rates sitting around 11%, his monthly payment is just $395, and he'll have it paid off completely, while Sarah still has 4 years of payments remaining. Here's where the math gets really interesting. Once Mike pays off his car, he continues making that same $395 payment to himself by investing it. Over the next 10 years, assuming a conservative 7% return, that money grows to over $68,000. Mike built nearly $70,000 in wealth. Sarah just built a relationship with her mechanic. This is the hidden cost of buying too much car that nobody talks about. It's not just the monthly payment. It's the opportunity cost of all the money you could have been investing instead of sending to the bank every month. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. What about people who claim they need a reliable car for work, or they have a family and need something safe? Yeah, these are valid concerns, but they're often used as excuses to justify overspending. You can find reliable, safe transportation within the guidelines we've discussed. The difference is you might be driving a 3-year-old Hyundai instead of a brand new Audi. Here's a secret that car salespeople don't want you to know. Some of the most reliable cars on the road are also among the least expensive to own. Honda Civics, Toyota Corollas, and Nissan Sentras consistently rank among the most reliable vehicles, and you can find excellent examples within any reasonable budget. But what if you absolutely must have a larger vehicle? Maybe you have 4 kids, or you genuinely need a truck for work. The principles don't change. You just need to shop smarter. A 5-year-old Chevrolet Suburban with 100,000 miles will haul your entire family and cost a fraction of what a new one would. A 10-year-old Ford F-150 will handle any job a brand new truck can, but at 20% of the price. The key is separating needs from wants. You need reliable transportation. You want the latest technology, leather seats, and that new car smell. Understanding this difference will save you literally hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Let's talk about something that makes car buying even more dangerous for your wealth. Extended warranties, gap insurance, paint protection, and all the other add-ons that dealers push during the financing process. These products can add $50 to $100 to your monthly payment. And most of them are either unnecessary or overpriced. The dealer might tell you that gap insurance is essential, but if you put 20% down on a reasonable car, you won't need it. They'll say the extended warranty provides peace of mind. But if you're buying a reliable used car within your budget, you're better off setting aside the warranty payment each month for potential repairs. Here's where the psychology of car buying gets really twisted. Dealers train their salespeople to make you feel like you're getting a deal, even when you're being financially destroyed. They'll show you a monthly payment and ask if you can afford it. Of course, you can afford it. The question isn't whether you can afford the payment. The question is whether making that payment is the best use of your money. Think about it this way. Every dollar you spend on a car payment is a dollar that's not growing in an investment account. If you're paying an extra $200 per month for a fancier car, that's $200 that could be earning returns for the next 30 years. At a 7% annual return, that extra $200 per month becomes over $240,000 over 3 decades. Suddenly, that premium sound system and heated seats don't seem quite so appealing when you realize they might cost you $4 million in lost wealth building opportunities. This brings us to one of the most important concepts in personal finance: opportunity cost. Every financial decision you make eliminates other opportunities when you choose to spend money on a depreciating asset like a car. You're choosing not to invest that money in appreciating assets like stocks or real estate. The wealthy understand this concept intuitively. They drive reasonable cars not because they can't afford better ones, but because they'd rather use that money to buy assets that increase their wealth rather than drain it. Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world, famously drove the same car for decades. He understood that cars are tools for transportation, not investments or status symbols. But here's where many people get defensive. They argue that their car is important to their professional image, or that they spend so much time in it that they deserve something nice. These might be valid points in extreme cases, but they're usually just rationalizations for overspending. If you're a real estate agent or salesperson who genuinely needs to project success, you can still do that within reasonable guidelines. A well-maintained 3-year-old luxury car will project the same image as a brand new one, but at half the cost. The client sitting in the passenger seat can't tell the difference between a car that's 6 months old and one that's 3 years old. Here's the brutal truth about car affordability. that most people refuse to accept. If you're not already wealthy, you can't afford to act like you are. Wealthy people can afford to make suboptimal financial decisions because they have the resources to absorb the losses. If you're still building wealth, every dollar counts, and wasting money on expensive cars will keep you from ever achieving financial independence. The path to wealth isn't complicated, but it requires making choices that your peers might not understand. While they're complaining about their car payments, you'll be building investment accounts that eventually eliminate the need for monthly payments on anything. Let's talk about financing terms, because this is where dealers absolutely love to play games with your brain. You've probably heard the pitch 1,000 times. We can get you into this car for just $39 more per month. They say it like $39 is nothing, like you accidentally drop that much and lose change every week. But here's the math they're hoping you won't do. $39 per month over 6 years is an extra $2,800. Over 7 years, it's $3,270 for what? Maybe upgraded floor mats and a slightly better sound system. You're literally paying $3,000 for features you could add yourself for $300. This is why the loan term is absolutely critical to your financial survival. Every month you add to your loan term makes the car more expensive, even if the monthly payment looks smaller. A $20,000 car financed at 5% interest costs $21.66 over 4 years. Stretch that same loan to 6 years, and you'll pay $22,645. 7 years pushes it to $23,712. You just paid an extra $2,600 for the privilege of making payments longer. That's not financial planning. That's financial torture. And here's the part that'll really mess with your head. By year 6 or 7, when you're still making payments, your car will need expensive repairs, transmission work, engine problems, suspension issues. So you'll be paying to fix a car you still owe money on. Remember those numbers we talked about today? $50,000 gets you an $8,000 car. $75,000 puts you around $15,000. $100,000 opens up $25,000. And $150,000 lets you shop around $40,000. These aren't suggestions. They're financial survival guidelines. Your future wealthy self will thank you for driving that boring, reliable car while everyone else is drowning in payments. If this video just saved you from years of financial regret, smash that subscribe button and check out my video on building wealth in your 20s, because cars don't make you rich, but smart money decisions absolutely will.